I came by air. It may sound odd to say that. What other way then? Some people walked, many drowned. They were desperate. I wasn't desperate, but I was very frightened because I had made some people very angry with me. My crime was to tell the girls who attended my Sunday school that they should not agree to be circumcised. My Sunday school was supposed to be a reading and writing class, but I slipped in the good word any way I could. I told them circumcision was genital mutilation and a barbaric and backward practice. Men forced women to do it so they would know they were rubbish. The real intention was to hurt them and paralyze them and control them. When the day came for the girls to agree to the cut, 6 of them refused. I wasn't there, but I discovered what had happened that same night when I heard angry voices outside my house, bidding me to come out and take a beating for interfering with their daughters. It was a Muslim village in a Muslim country. And though I'm a countryman, I'm a Christian who is now accused of interfering with their daughters. You can imagine my terror. When it quietened down outside and the angry people went away, perhaps to get more people to come and help them, I wheeled out my bicycle in the dark and rode away to safety in a nearby village. The next day, I heard that the thatch of my house was set on fire that night, and that the people who did it were still looking for me and talking bad. So I ran away to the city, to the office of the charity NGO I worked for. The officer there was an Englishman, Bernard. He was my friend. He told me he would find out about the fire, that I shouldn't worry. Everything will be all right. But I thought I would go into hiding. A few days later, he told me that the people who burnt down my house came to look for me at the office. And they said they had some unfinished business with me. He told me to go to the police. That made me laugh. I didn't mean to laugh, but it just came out of me. I told Bernard the police will beat me first, and then hand me over to their brothers to finish the job. In that case, you have no choice but to stay in hiding because those men look dangerous. These bad people went back to the office several times looking for me. And in the end, Bernard suggested that I run away to Britain to seek asylum. It is a Christian country, and you are a Christian worker, persecuted for doing Christian labor, Bernard said. He knew I would be given sanctuary, he said. Bernard himself was leaving, and he gave me his telephone number in London in case I needed him. How did I find the money for the fare? Friends helped me. My relatives promised to take care of my family. They could all see that my life was in danger. And this one spoke to that one, until a fare for an Air Morocco flight to London was found. Friends arranged it all. So, I came by air, as I have already told you. And I arrived in London not knowing right from left, confused by the large spaces and the hushed crowds. But I talked myself into feeling strong, telling myself that I was doing something brave. I was wearing a suit I had made before I left, and which I still have and wear on special occasions. So I also told myself I was looking good. I was given some forms to complete, and I wrote what was necessary to save a life. And I was allowed to enter, I don't know how. I was confused and didn't know right from left, but somehow I said what was needed because I knew they would not turn me away. I was persecuted for doing merciful labor, and I knew that London would not turn me away. I rang the number Bernard gave me, and he was happy to hear from me. But he said I could not go and stay with him. His wife said no. He said maybe we could meet somewhere for a coffee after I had settled down. I sat there at the airport, not knowing what to do next. Then a policeman approached me and suggested I go upstairs because it was warmer there. He asked me if I was all right, if I needed help. I wanted to tell him that I had nowhere to stay, that I only had a little money. But I thought he had taken me for a respectable person, and if I spoke to him like that, he would think I was just an African hooligan. So I went upstairs and did not ask for his help. I rang a friend from home who was living in Colchester. I'm in London, I told him. That's brilliant news, he said. I'm coming to see you, I told him. Wonderful, he said. I don't have any money, I told him. He sent me the fare by Western Union, and that same evening I was in Colchester with my friend and his family. My friend teased me about my smart suit, and we laughed to see each other again after so long. But even as I ate the food his wife prepared for me, he told me I could not stay with her. I had already seen that myself. Him and his wife and their 3 small children lived in a small flat with only 2 rooms, and everything that I saw in their house told me that their lives were a struggle. No, he said. Now that I had arrived, I must go to the Home Office and ask for asylum. So he gave me the money, and the next day I went to Croydon. Yes, to Luna House. No, I was not frightened, maybe a little anxious because I didn't want to get lost and make a fool of myself. There at Luna House, a woman interviewed me and wrote down all my details. I told her that I was a campaigner against female genital mutilation and my life was in danger in my home country. Yes, she said. I'm going to assign you emergency initial accommodation. Just sit there and wait now. By the end of the day, there were 6 of us waiting there, and we were all put in a van and taken to Barry House. There were 12 of us there, and we could go out if we wanted to. Mostly, I walked up and down the road, and if anyone looked in my direction, I smiled to show my gratitude for the welcome their country had given me. I stayed there for 5 days. We told each other stories of our escape from danger and death. Then 3 of us were sent to live in a house in Newcastle, where we stayed for a month. Then after that, I was given a flat in Glasgow and 3 weeks' money. And all this time, I was still waiting to be interviewed so that I could explain my need for sanctuary. I was eager for my interview because I knew that the officer would understand and sympathize with my reasons for coming here. In Glasgow, I met a Nigerian man in a shop, and he invited me to church. Everyone was an African at the church, including a pastor. And at the end of the service, we were served African food prepared by the congregation. I found a community there and felt more welcome than I had ever felt since arriving. We had events and a day trips to the sea and to Stirling, which made the waiting less empty and anxious. After 1 month in Glasgow, I was called for interview. I was interviewed for 5 hours by 3 different people. All of them were calm and persistent, but I could tell from the way they asked me questions that there was something behind it. They did not believe me. And as the hours passed, I began to think what I had not thought possible over the 3 months I had been waiting. They did not want me here. They did not like me. The result of the interview was that I was refused permission to stay. I felt as if I was something broken, discarded, thrown away with other broken things. I could not get over the stubborn and unruffled hostility of the officers. Perhaps you knew all along he was going to turn out like this. But I did not expect it. I really thought I would be heard differently. For the next 2 years, my application to stay was repeatedly refused, from the beginning of 2007 until the middle of 2009. I was not even allowed to attend the hearing, but afterwards I was informed that my application was refused. I don't know what would have happened without the Refugee Council solicitor who took my case. Without her, I would probably have been bundled onto a plane and returned to my assassins. In 2009, my application at last was successful, but permission to stay did not mean the end of my arrival's tale. I was not allowed to work. My allowance, which was loaded onto an electronic card, only allowed me to shop in certain shops and for certain things. In the end, I took a job, working illegally a few hours a week in a motor parts shop, just for pocket money. I don't know how the police found out, but they raided my flat at 4 a.m, overturned everything they could overturn, and took me away hurriedly, as if I was a dangerous criminal. All my papers and all my property were lost during the arrest because I was not allowed to go back and was held away out of sight as if I was a poisonous snake or an infectious animal for several months. When my case eventually came to court, I was sentenced to 12 months in prison. 12 months for daring to take a little part-time job. Now I knew I had arrived. I was released in 2011, only to return to the limbo I was in before. I am not allowed to work. I've now been here for 8 years. I have no choice but to live where I'm told to live and wait for the next hearing to allow my application to be considered. Do you know what limbo means? It means the edge of hell.